Do we have everything to fear itself, as you have once said before?
We have everything to fear, including fear itself, and the bad news hasn't yet hit, I don't think.
I think you may be right.
We're all into a losing struggle. No one has ever beaten these odds. I've looked up ahead, or if you prefer, down the road. I know what's coming. I know no one beats these odds. And it's a matter of getting used to that and growing up and realizing that you're expelled from your mother's uterus as if shot from a cannon towards a barn door studded with old nail files and rusty hooks. It's a matter of how you use up the intervening time in an intelligent and ironic way and try not to do everything ghastly to your fellow creatures. That leaves us with the question of why should we care? Somehow I'm glad that at least that bit of our innate nature is useful. But if we praise ourselves for what's innate, we're going to be praising a lot of very unpleasant things too. And there's no way around that. There's only the pretense that there's a way around it.
So we do have everything to fear, including fear itself.
And to add, by the way, and also, if you ask me, I think we have free will. And how do I know that? Because we have no choice but to have free will.
About religion and God. So I thought this would be a perfect time to bring in the stars of Collision, a new documentary on religion and atheism. Christopher Hitchens, self-proclaimed anti-theist and author of God is Not Great, and Pastor Douglas Wilson, evangelical and author. Welcome to the show. I saw the movie and I really enjoyed the movie very much. It's very, very interesting. But I don't want you two to just rehash the debates, okay? All right, because I want you to make me understand where you're at and people who are watching the show. Because, so, okay, let's start with you. Can you give me, just in a nutshell, Pastor, a case for God?
Okay.
That God exists.
One of the things I would want to do is ask about where your starting point is. Who has the burden of proof? So does a Ford automobile have the burden of proof of demonstrating that there was a Henry Ford or that there wasn't? Who has the burden of proof? And a lot of this debate is actually scrambling for the high ground of who has to do the proving, who has to do the maintaining, who carries the burden of proof. Now,
and who do you think carries the burden?
I believe the one who denies the self-evident fact that God exists and created the world, I think that is the person who has the burden of proof.
You say it's self-evident?
Yes, self-evident to those
who believe.
Those who believe. Those who don't believe, if you watch this movie, Collision, it's sort of like watching diving competitions in the Olympics. The Romanian judge comes up with a completely different score, 2 points, 10 points. So this is the sort of debate where atheists go to it and they think Christopher carried the day, and believers go to the debate and they think that the Christian guy did great.
There may not be a solution to this.
I think there is one. I mean, and I can't avail myself of the almost beautiful circularity of Pastor Wilson's argument. And I wouldn't want to shirk any burden of proof or disproof, but it does seem to me that if someone says, if I don't agree with them, I might be condemned to eternal punishment, and that snakes talk, virgins bear children, and dead men walk, that extraordinary claims do require extraordinary evidence. What atheists say is not that there is no God. We couldn't possibly prove that. We say there's never been any evidence, and there's never been a convincing philosophical argument that there is such an entity. In fact, we say there is no supernatural dimension. The natural world is much more wonderful.
But you don't, Pastor,
it's enough of itself.
You don't really believe that snakes talk and that Noah had all those animals on the boat, do you?
Yeah, I believe the Bible. I'm a Christian, so I believe the Bible.
It sounds like you're too intelligent to really believe that literally. I understand your faith, but that all those animals were on the boat?
Well, come on. We're animals. And we talk.
We're primates.
And we talk.
Yeah.
Well, that's an advance of where Presbyterianism used to be. They used to say we weren't primates. Now we know. Now everyone agrees we are. No one agrees we evolved. No one agrees that the cosmos was created by an explosion, probably without us in mind. And we're very likely not the object for divine design.
Okay.
We might be more modest to think that we are.
All right.
One of the things I would want to maintain is that Christians aren't going to make any headway by trying to split the difference between faith and unbelief. If you have unbelief and faith, and you split the difference, you just get a muddled form of faith or a muddled form of unbelief. I'm not interested in trying to dilute the Bible to make it acceptable to people. So if I'm a Christian, then I do what Jesus says, believe what he taught, and that sort of thing. That's what a Christian should do.
What about this idea of Jesus, Christopher? You don't buy it at all, I take it.
Well, I don't think he was the son of God.
You don't?
No, I don't think his mother
You
was.
think he
I don't think his
existed?
mother was a virgin, and I don't think he died and was resurrected or revived or resuscitated.
None of that.
None of that. And even if he was, by the way, any of those things, he would only have that in common: virginal birth, miraculous circumstances, mysterious death, with many, many other mythological figures. It wouldn't prove, even if it could be proved, wouldn't prove his doctrines were true, or moral, or ethical, which I don't think they are.
Does it surprise you to know that Einstein probably believed in God? That's pretty
No,
surprising.
I absolutely know that the contrary is true.
Well,
Einstein wrote very, very clearly he was a pantheist, or possibly a deist. He did not believe in a personal God, a God of religion. He didn't believe in a God who could intervene in human affairs, would answer prayers, would take side in
that's
war,
an interesting
would
point.
care what you ate,
There's
or
a
who you
certain-
had sex with.
There's a certain self-absorption in the idea that the sky god is watching me, particularly do my show right now. There's something strange about that. Do you believe that? Do you think he's watching you specifically right now?
Yeah, Jesus said God numbers the hairs on our head. It's not just...
So it's Google.
Yes, and is there self-absorption in that?
Yeah.
So here's the fundamental issue. Of course, you can believe in an omniscient God and believe in it in a way that flatters yourself. There have been all kinds of believers who take the doctrine that God knows all things and has the hairs of your head numbered, and they do it in a self-flattering way, a self-absorbed way. Yes, that does happen. But it's also something that can humble you if you think about it correctly. It helps put everything in perspective.
It
Okay.
makes you too humble.
Okay,
It makes you into a servant.
Hang
You
on
say,
one second.
I'm just a plaything of God's will.
Well, let's talk about the Ten Commandments, for example. Do we really need the Ten Commandments to be good people? I mean, I know not to murder somebody. I didn't need to be raised Catholic, even though I was, to know that.
Right? Part of the problem that we come up against is that we have been inculcated in the Ten Commandments, the tenets of the Ten Commandments for many centuries, and then we kick the ladder away. We've climbed up this height, kick the ladder away, and say, look how high we are. Well, I don't think it is self-evident that you shouldn't murder or commit adultery.
What did people do before the Ten Commandments? They didn't murder and kill everybody, otherwise we wouldn't be here.
Well, no, look at the crime rates. If sin disappeared overnight, if somebody waved a magic wand and sin disappeared, our economy would collapse. We are.
What do you say to that, Chris?
That doesn't make me say anything. I have some tougher stuff to say. I mean,
Go ahead.
Well, first, the story isn't true. I mean, the wandering in the desert, the exile.
How about the sea parting and all that?
That's the Jewish version of the Christian mythology. It's worse than talking snakes. The Analects of Confucius, written long before, say to people what the golden rule is: don't do to others what you wouldn't want done to yourself. The first 3 or 4 commandments are all saying you must fear someone you love, a heavenly dictator. They're not moral at all. Then there are 2 or 3 that are self-evident: don't murder rather, don't steal, and don't commit perjury. And then the others are putting women on the level of beasts and saying they're among the chattels of your neighbour, you mustn't covet. It's a Bronze Age, tribal, agricultural,
So the Ten Commandments
fearful
were
code.
like in reruns,
Yeah,
really.
well, let's go at this from yet another angle. Take the Code of Hammurabi and the Analects of Confucius and the
An eye
Ten
for eye,
Commandments.
tooth for tooth.
Well, eye for eye, tooth for tooth is lex talionis was given because it used to be before that a life for an eye, a life for a tooth. All right, strict justice was imposed to keep these things from escalating out of control. But the reason you have all these codes enforced by armies and police departments and that sort of thing is because people don't obey them naturally and spontaneously.
What do you say to that, Chris?
For example, there's no commandment against genocide. There's no commandment against slavery, very common at the time, and no commandment saying parents should respect and be nice to their children. Why is this? Because in the next chapter, the so-called children of this terrifying God who exacts compulsory love are going to be ordered to commit genocide against the Amalekites and the Midianites and the Moabites. They're going to be ordered to enslave them, and they're going to be ordered to kill all their children in the name of God.
That's not very
don't
nice.
have a commandment.
That's not very Christian.
So this is completely relativistic.
Yeah. By the way, I read somewhere where I saw it in the it's a wonderful film, by the way, which I'll keep pushing for you.
Good for you.
That you were spanked, and
Yes.
that's not very nice to spank a child. Why do you think that's a Christian thing to do?
I was the kind of child that needed it.
Oh, all kids say that, and they're so wrong to spank a child, and it's so not Christian.
So here we are at the end of the video, and here you can see some of the sketches of the painting process. In the end, it turned out pretty well, and you will find a full process video on my YouTube channel, and there's also a link in the description. If you like to support my work, you can do that by going to Patreon and sign up for $1.15 or whatever, or you can also buy me a coffee. It's also important you give the video a thumbs up, leave a comment and tell me what you think. So hope to see you in my next video.